Hi everyone, it's Deb from Deb's RV Services and welcome to today's video. I have another inspection for you. It is a 2022 Keystone Cougar fifth wheel, and right off the bat I have something to show you that I found. So go ahead and watch the video and I'll see you at the end. Today I'm inspecting a 2022 Cougar. It's a model number 290 RLS. It has 3 slides and 2 awnings. It also is a gross vehicle weight rating of 12,200 pounds. Right away, you're going to see something that I found, and I'm going to have you just listen for a moment and pay attention to the sound that you hear at the end. There was a scraping sound, and when I looked further, it had an error code, and then I looked underneath it and there was a loose bolt. So here I'm taking a look at the front cap area, the front wall, and opening the cargo area. And then I noticed on that front wall, there what appeared to be, it looked like a little delamination, so I wanted to investigate it further to make sure that there wasn't some type of water damage. It did appear to be structural to me, but I did note it in my report. And when I do that, I look inside and I make sure that I don't see any signs of water damage. And I look on the roof too. You can see with that wood that I would be able to tell if there's some water stains. And I didn't find any evidence that showed me that there had been water in this unit. There's also the batteries were in there. They're lithium batteries. And then I also saw the spare tire. And I always check the date of the spare tire. And this was dated October 2022. Now, when I look at the front cap, I'm checking for sealant. I'm looking for cracks. I'm looking for holes. I did find some gaps here. You can't see it as well in the video, but I did note it in my report. It's something that I find often on fifth wheels, is this area here seems to have some separation. So I made sure that I noted it. Now I am going ahead and plugging in my tester so that I can look at the lights around the RV, and they all appeared to be working, which I like to find. So we're just going around and looking at the back lights blinking and all the rear lights and everything else. I'm looking along the sidewall of the curbside and I'm checking for sealant here. I always do that. I take pictures of everything, and then I go through each area of the sidewall, and I'm looking at the windows, I'm looking at the cargo areas. I'm just checking everything out to make sure that there are no gaps or holes in the sealant or cracks or anything in the paint or the decals. I'm looking inside the cargo area here, and what you'll notice is there is the 50 amp cord here and it's laying inside, but I'm taking a further look inside of that cargo area. It's nice and spacious, and I look up at the structure. I'm taking a look at the foundation of it. I'm looking at that wood, and again, I'm looking for any signs of water intrusion, stains. It would be really easy to tell with that type of wood there. The beams, everything with the foundation looks fine. And then there's also a control area and an outlet. So I'm going to test that outlet, and then I'm going to take that box off of that control area and just kind of make sure that there isn't any blown fuses or little lights that give me a warning of something that had gone, something that's wrong. Here I am just testing out the door. I work the handle. It's one of the D-ring handles. And then I open up the door and I'm testing the locks, making sure that they function correctly. I'm separating the screen door from that and making sure that that opens and closes correctly. And I take all my pictures, and I also lift the ladder and make sure that that goes into place, locks into place too for travel. Here I am testing the slides. I always test each and every slide. I make sure that it comes out properly and that there's no alignment issues or weird sounds. I do that for every single slide, and then I also look at the roof. So this roof here, you can see everything looks good. I'm looking at the seal of it. I'm looking at all those, see the sweep, how it's out and extracted like it should be. I'm always making sure, because you could get water intrusion, just like these sweeps right here. They're like blade sweeps and they keep water from going in. So I'm always looking at these on the slides, and I'm also looking at that sealant along the bottom to make sure that it's present, or butyl tape is behind there, because water can get in those areas. Again, I'm looking at all the seals around the bottom of the slide. I am looking at the gear rack system. I'm making sure that the bolts are correctly in their place, that they're not coming out, that there's nothing that looks out of place. So I was doing my tire check, and I was, going ahead, and I do all the areas in the front, but then I go behind and I'm looking behind the tire as well. And that's when I noticed some fabric that was kind of hanging out from the underbelly. I went ahead and took a picture of that, took a note for them to address that, so it's not just flapping there at the tire. But I also, so that you guys are aware, I do look at all the components behind the tire, and I'm looking at all the U-bolts and the leaf springs, and making sure that they're all uniform and they're tight. I'm looking at the axle. I'm making sure that I don't see any cracks in any of this gear. And I'm noting all that in my report on my findings. Here I am testing the awnings and making sure that they extract and retract like they should. And I'm not only looking at the fabric and the way it extracts and retracts, I'm also looking at the awning arms and making sure that they fasten in after they retract and they're nice and tight. They're not just hanging out, because that happens frequently. Here I noticed there was a little bit of missing sealant, and it was along this little trim piece. Here I am checking that the ladder is nice and firm. And then what I'm doing is I'm getting up on the roof and I'm looking at everything up there. So I want to check everything on the roof. I'm looking at the front cap, the rear cap. I'm checking out all the sealant and making sure that there's no holes or cracks in it. This is a rubber roof, and so it has a Dicor type sealant on it. I can also access looking at the slide roofs up here. So there's a couple ways I can look at that. So I'm making sure that all looks good. And then like here you have a skylight, and I can see a little hole in the sealant there. So I'm going to note that, because it doesn't take much for water intrusion. And I'm looking at all the vent covers. I'm looking at the plumbing covers, and there's the wine guard. And I'm just making sure that there's no cracks in it, that all the sealant looks good. The solar panels are the same. I want to make sure that the solar panels look good, and that where they're attached to the roof, that all that sealant is also good. This vent cap here has a tape on it, so I guess there was probably a crack, but there's a big hole in that sealant, so that needs to be addressed. But everything really looks good up here. There was just something that I noticed that had been removed prior. I'm not sure what was up there, but one of the pieces had a bunch of sealant around it, so I just noted that in my report as well. I am now taking a look at the street side sidewall, and I'm doing the same thing I did with the other side. I'm looking at all the sealant and seals and making sure that everything looks good. I notice on this slide out that the sweeps are not extracted like they should be. And on the other side of the sidewall there, or the slide out, it was completely tucked in the whole way up. Not one part of it was sticking out. So you want to make sure you get that taken care of so you don't get any water intrusion in there. Looking at the interior of the fifth wheel now, I'm going to go through my inspection here. So I thought I would just kind of show you around real quick. Kind of looks similar to some of the other fifth wheels that I look at. The quality changes, but I do love the space and the kitchens on these fifth wheels. They're really nice. A nice spacious bedroom too, and bathroom. So as I'm looking at the interior, I'm making sure that the trim work isn't loose and checking all around it. Sometimes that happens. And then when I'm going over to the windows, I'm opening them, but in this case, I have an exit window. So I'm pushing it open so that I can make sure that works. That's really important in case somebody needs to escape. I also look at the shades and I pull them down. And this one in particular, it did not want to stay down. I kept trying and it was slowly going back up. And so then I'd pull it down and it would slowly go back up again. And I think I must have tried it a million times. And I finally just had to write it up. Yep, I'm just staring at it. It's not going to work, Deb. It's going to keep going up. It's going to keep rolling up. Just go ahead and write it up. So I test out all of the chairs and make sure that they recline all the way back. And They also have sensors on it like massage, and so I test those out as well. Now this was an interesting situation. The countertop was really hot, so I couldn't understand why. Notice the sun behind me. I didn't catch that at first, but I'm measuring the heat on the counter, and then I'm looking around to figure out what's going on. And so I look under, and you can hear this fan. That's the converter fan running, and that kept going, and so that was concerning me. So then I wanted to look at the wires, so I'm taking off this panel and I'm trying to look at the wires, and I want to measure the temperature there. I keep thinking there's something wrong here, there's definitely something wrong. And then it dawned on me that the sun had been blazing in for most of the morning, and I had that door open, and that's really what it was this whole time. So it cooled down, and I made sure that everything was, good, and the fan was no longer running. It was literally just got heated up from that sunlight. So now I am looking through the rest of the area and checking out the windows and doing more inspection on this rear side of the unit, and just checking out all the areas there. Over here, I'm gonna open up the drawers and everything. I'm gonna turn on the TV and make sure that it works with the remote and that I get proper channels. And then I'm also going to, open any cupboards or anything, and then I'm gonna turn on the fireplace and make sure that it works. And then I'm also gonna work the stereo. So what I do is I turn it on, I take a picture, and then I also make a recording so that I can listen to music or whatever's on the radio and record that it's actually working. Now I'm in the kitchen looking through all the stuff in there, going through the cupboards and everything, and then I'm going to use the microwave, I'm going to use the stove, I'm going to test everything out and make sure that the burners work correctly, that there's a good flame. I'm going to test out that the oven has a good flame, and I'm just going to go through everything in this area. One of the things that I did was, one of the things I do is I always test out that there is correct polarity in the outlets. And I also have to check that there's a GFCI that's properly working. And you always want, whenever there's something that's in the kitchen or near water, you want that to work correctly. So here I'm testing it out, but while I realized that my microwave went off, and then I had to go get my temperature gauge from the fridge and put it in the cup of hot water that was from the microwave. Then I had to go back to the outlet, and that's where I noticed that it did not have correct polarity. So here it shows a failure, and what I do is I just note that in my report so that it can get fixed. This is me just looking at the bathroom, and I flushed the toilet. I'm taking pictures. I'm watching it fill up and making sure that it holds water. I'm flushing it while I'm looking behind it to make sure that there's no leaking. I continue looking in all of the closets and pantries, and I run the shower. I make sure that hot and cold water work. And then when I'm done doing that, I take my pictures and I grab the actual shower head, and I kind of run it around the shower. I make sure that I don't see any leaking outside, because sometimes there's not enough sealant around the tub and it'll leak down to the bottom. And then I went through the bedroom, and everything looked good there. So there was nothing to report in the bedroom. So what did you think of that inspection? I didn't think it was too bad. Holes in the sealant, that's pretty normal, and it can be fixed by the dealership. I didn't see any water damage. That bolt with the leveling system could be fixed, and the dealership will be able to repair that. But it's a good thing that I did the inspection to find those items, because had the customer driven off the lot, then they could have bigger issues down the road. Some of these tiny things that I find lead to much more expensive repairs later if they're not found right away. So I definitely think an inspection is always needed before you purchase your RV. Let me know what you think below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.